What's up, Five Knuckle fans? Spencer here, and I know what you're thinking. Spencer, this is like the third time you've changed the format on your movie reviews. What's going on? Well, copyright claims are what's going on, and as long as they keep claiming, I'm gonna keep changing to where we have a video that isn't copyright claimed in some fashion. So, I'm not going to include any video from the trailer here because apparently that's not fair use, even though it is, but hey, we're gonna let it slide, folks. We're gonna let it slide because we're talking about Resident Evil, the final chapter. And how was it? Well, I can say if you liked the other Resident Evil films, then you'll probably like this one. It's a lot of the same, small twists here and there, and overall the Resident Evil movies, in my opinion, are nice, dumb fun to watch. I had a hurricane from the bar before I saw it, and yeah, it was enjoyable overall. Cool action sequences, and Mila Jovovich is just as cool as ever. I gotta say, in this one, I didn't know how they were gonna end it off. I mean, I kind of figured a cure would be involved, but, you know, the logistics of it. What's with the logistics? So yeah, there's a cure, and Mila Jovovich has to get it for a chance to wipe out the T-Virus once and for all. The Umbrella Corporation is out for her blood and wants to stop her so their ultimate plan can be accomplished. Overall, I feel like they didn't take enough risks with this movie as they could have. This is the final chapter, which means we can do whatever we want now in this movie. If the fans are disappointed, it's the last movie. Who cares? I mean, that's the wrong attitude to have, but, you know, it's a reasonable attitude. And I'll get into the spoiler section, why it felt lacking in some of these risks and moves. But I'll just say this, there are things they could have done that would have pleased the fans of the movie that they didn't do. And that was a bit disappointing in my opinion. But overall, the action sequences we did get were a lot of fun, including one involving a shit ton of gasoline and fire, which I won't spoil for you, but let's just say in 3D it had to have looked amazing. Like, holy shit, that was actually pretty cool. But overall, with these kind of movies, I can't necessarily recommend them for a general audience because overall, yeah, they're lacking in a bit. The plot feels half the time tacked on, and the characters and their motivations don't exactly feel right here and there. Sometimes in the editing it can be quite choppy. That can ruin a decent fight sequence. Well, somewhat. It's still a nice fight sequence, but it's like if I had a nice slice of pumpkin pie and then you spilt like some gravy on the end of it. It's like, okay, I still have my pumpkin pie, but now this part of it is ruined for me, and, you know, I could have had an entire pumpkin pie. I'm hungry right now, folks. I have not eaten. So overall, yeah, I would not recommend this movie for general audiences, specifically because they are of a certain taste. Now, while they do somewhat appeal to me in a dumb action kind of way, I can't necessarily say the same for everyone else. This isn't in the same reign as Kung Fury. This is more of its own flavor of unique, dumb, fun action. It's not necessarily a terrible film. I would never put a Resident Evil movie on my top 10 worst movies list of any year, but there is a certain aesthetic to them that would keep me from calling them exactly good movies. They are enjoyable to a certain degree, but necessarily calling them a hallmark of cinema or saying they are as great as they could have possibly been would be a far cry, to say the least. Okay, now we get into the spoiler section. If you don't want the movie to be spoiled for you, then, you know, turn away now. So we'll get right down to it. Albert Wesker in the movie. He was significantly lacking, and that's what I mean by as good as it could have been. We could have had a decent fight sequence with him and Mila Jovovich, but in the movie he's taken out with one slamming door on his foot and a cliche action movie explosion. We didn't get some badass fight sequence or anything. Overall, he's taken out like he's just another extra character. Hell, that one guy that was piloting the tank had a better and longer fight sequence than Albert Wesker, a recognizable character from the original Resident Evil video game series. And I didn't even get his name in the movie. Maybe it was said in the last one, I don't know. But overall, when some random extra character who was made up specifically for the movie gets a longer action sequence than one of a character that's iconic in the Resident Evil franchise, something was lacking in the writing there. Now, I understand for plot convenience it would be better for Alice to fight one superpowered guy instead of two, but at the same time, this is Resident Evil, the final chapter. Go crazy with it. Have some fun with it. Hell, take Albert Wesker and, cut his head off. I don't know. Give us something here. Don't let Albert Wesker go out like a punk. Hell, in Resident Evil 5, it took him falling into an active volcano and an RPG to the face to take him out. In this one, it's just a door and an explosion. And hell, I don't even think the explosion killed him. I think he actually bled out from the door. And also, as one of the plot twists, we find out that Alice is actually a clone. And not just any clone, a clone of the AI little girl that taunted her throughout the other movies. Now, that was kind of an interesting plot twist. Now, I kind of guess, from all the cloning bullshit that's going on in these movies, eventually that would be a twist. We did have one where there were a bunch of dead Alices in a landfill going through a simulation of the events of one of the previous films. But I wasn't really necessarily sure they'd go that route. Then again, I didn't remember the movies that too much, so maybe the details were there, and I'm just so incompetent as a film reviewer I didn't remember crucial plot details of the original movies. It's like me going, holy shit, Darth Vader is Luke's father in Return of the Jedi. Was it that obvious? I don't know if it was that obvious. Where was I going with this? So right, and we actually get to see the original version of Alice, or the little girl with her aging disease, where she'd be having the body of a 90-year-old at the age of 20, which is why the father put her in the AI to begin with and created the T-virus in an effort to save her. But, like all movies where someone creates a virus or antivirus to cure all disease, it created an even more deadly disease that could not be cured. At least until the end. So yeah, fight sequence with the doctor guy. She gets her 3 fingers cut off and the laser beam thing. I kind of like that they brought the laser thing back. That was kind of cool in the original movie. I was a little bit disappointed that we couldn't axe someone off in the same way we lost that one guy who got diced to bits. But hell, we got the main doctor guy getting a grenade to the gut, so I guess that makes up for something. But, of course, that doesn't stop him because he's one of the super powerful action T-virus guys, kind of like Wesker, but we'll let that one slide. She breaks out, she gets to the surface, she takes the antivirus, she smashes it, and she kills all the T-virus infected zombies. Just a giant wave of them just dying right in front of her. Speaking of that, we do get the ending sequence with the doctor guy coming back, and he's like, uh-oh, I got my gun, you ain't gonna do this. And then we have, another version of the doctor guy because he's a clone. Yeah, that was kind of that was a little bit unintentionally funny where he's like, nah, I'm the original me. What you killed was a clone. And then he shows up again and he's like, actually, that guy was a clone. I'm the original me. Somewhere down the line, there's gotta be an original version of the guy alive somewhere. Or who knows, maybe he's been dead this whole time. I don't know. So yeah, the clone guy who had all of his buddies killed and was leading a bunch of zombies to the base shows up and he's like, whoa, who are you? And the doctor guy's like, I'm you. And the guy's like, no you're not. And the doctor guy's like, yeah, I am. You're a clone, dude. I'm the original me. And the clone guy's like, hell no. And he takes a knife and he stabs the guy a bunch of times. He's like, yeah, I'm the original me. And then he gets eaten alive by a bunch of zombies. I was kind of hoping Claire would get Alice. I get the names confused. Leave me the fuck alone. I was kind of hoping Alice would kill him off, but hell. Whatever. We got an action sequence. It was over like that. And of course, throughout the entire time, she's infected with the T-virus herself. So there's always this risk that, oh no, she's gonna die when she smashes it because she's infected with the T-virus. And they even say in the beginning, her opening narration of the events of the previous films that led up to this point, she ends it before the title card comes up saying, this is where my story ends. So I'm thinking, okay, yeah, they're gonna They're gonna kill her off. She sacrifices her life to save humanity. But no! It just kills the T-virus. It doesn't kill the entire host. So, yeah, sure, fucking cop-outs. You can't tell me this is where your story ends and then you still live. But whatever. And then the little girl pops up and she's like, hey, here's a contact lens with all your memories on it. Because the whole base blew up. Wesker died, older Alice died, a bunch of the Umbrella guys and like stasis pods die. And that was like all that remained. And it's like, okay, cool, I'll put this in my eye and I'll have all my memories of, someone else's memories that I'm a clone of that had. And she's like, oh, neat. And then it ends with her on the motorcycle driving down the road. And she's like, yeah, it's going to take years for the antivirus to reach everyone in the world. But hell, this is a pretty good start overall. I'm not going to complain. And then you see like these 3 flying demon monster T-virus things, I guess. Or were they like the GFH virus? I can't remember. But my work is not done. And smiles for the camera, cut to black, and you get the music, you get the directed by Paul W.S. Anderson, you get the producers, you get the actors, all that stuff. I've been jumping in and out of this accent. At this point, it's almost unintentional. I'm going to sound like some Boston douchebag by the end of the year. And I have a main problem with that last line because you can't say, this is where my story ends, and I've still got work to do. No, if you still got work to do, your story is not over, okay? That's not what's going on. Alright? My only logic behind it is that maybe they're approaching it like a book. It's like Harry Potter, the final chapter, but it's just the final chapter of the first book. We've still got a bunch more to go, and spoiler alert, people are gonna die. I mean, more so. People died in that book, too. Of course, one of the coolest parts of this movie was that sequence involving, like, that shit ton of zombies swarming the place, and we have the 2 tanks launching missiles at the building they're at, and they're armed with like a ton of gasoline. He like wrapped the barrels in gasoline-soaked rags and set the rags on fire and launch them, and boom, explosion effects. And it's like really dark, so the light from the explosions is intense. And then they start like pouring it just in gallons down the side and lighting that on fire and setting even more of the zombies on fire. That was a pretty cool sequence, I will not lie. And then we had a cool fight sequence with like the extra guy who was piloting one of them, and he's like, boom, yeah, I'll fight you. I'd say overall it ended well enough as is. They didn't take as much risks or have as much fun with the action, seeing as this is the last movie. I even saw this movie had a lower budget than most of the other movies, so what was up with that, guys? Give them an extra $10 million. Let's have a helicopter crash into a tank, and then Alice, takes the propeller blade and just starts slicing them in half with it, Go fun. Go balls to the wall action, guys. Don't cut it short in the last movie. But those were my thoughts. What are yours? Do you think there's gonna be a Resident Evil reboot soon? What do you think about the games, and how are those doing for you? Leave a comment down below. Also, don't forget to press that one button that says subscribe. That'll subscribe you to the channel. And if you like the video, I suggest hitting the like button. But if you disliked it, you can hit the dislike button. That's okay. You have my permission to do that. This is my video. And we also have social media. We have this thing called Facebook. So click on that. And we have a Twitter where we do tweets. And if you want to hear our tweets or read them, go to our Twitter. We also have vid.me, so if you want to watch vids involving me or the others, go to that. I think we also might have an Instagram, I don't remember. But if we do, yeah, get us on that. Anyways, peace out, thank you all for watching, and yeah, thank you all for watching.